Can't hear.
I can't see.
That's what I see.
We are. I think we're live.
You need to prop it up.
I think we're live, Jane. So hi everyone.
Good evening.
And tonight we're going to have a slightly different format, a longer format. We're going to have the usual stuff that me and Jane do at the beginning, and our subject tonight is about who were you in a past life. So we're going to tell you about ways you can think about that, and we're going to have a sort of a 5-minute break in between, which you'll see a few video clips and things like that. So it gives you a comfort break. So you can either sit and watch the rest of the videos or wait. And then we'll have a chat with Domenico as well, which will be much more of a sort of an informal talk, sort of a general talk about things. And if any of you are interested in joining us online, and having a talk with us, do put your experience. If you're on Facebook, for example, write your experience into into the Facebook, so that then Domenico will select some of you who can have a chat with us about your experiences. So in particular, you will need a video camera, a webcam of some sort working properly, and make sure you've got sound. Otherwise, we don't want to be sort of fiddling around trying to get people to connect. So as long as you know you've got a proper working connection, leave your experience on Facebook links or on the comments in the YouTube, and Domenico will then send you a link, and then we'll be able to cut you in at the end on the second part of the show, so we can talk about your personal experiences. So it should be quite an interesting talk tonight, I think, then, Jane, don't you think?
Well, I think it is. Most people want to know what they were in a past life and what particular body they were in. Yeah. Do you, Craig, want to know what kind of body you were in?
Yeah, I've obviously took me many lifetimes to get to the perfection that I am here at the moment.
Were you Buddha?
Could have been. Yeah. So hi from Kit. We're going to say hello to a few people as you start to join us now. Hello from Kit from Chicago.
Oh, I've always wanted to go to Chicago.
Yes, we also have hellos at the beginning, just to those of you that join us, just so that we can sort of let people get online, and I'll just give another rundown about what's going to happen later as well. Nana Rosebud again. Hi, Nana.
Hi, Nana. Lovely to connect with you again.
Just a little way down the road. So
Totten, comes from Australia now.
Melbourne in Australia. I hope they'll still be able to get YouTube one day if they decide to cut off Google, as they're talking about in Australian news I see today. Yeah, Google are at loggerheads with the government. Agility Bits, of course. Hi there, Pat. And
let's see.
Mediterranean Chamber. I wonder what that is.
It's meditation chamber.
Meditation chamber.
Not a torture chamber.
It's still chamber. It sounds really dodgy, doesn't it? Amy Young. Hello to the terrific transcendent twosome from North Carolina. If that wasn't such a mouthful, that would be a really good key sign-off line for us. The terrific transcendent twosome. I like that, actually. Patricia again from Germany. Hi there, Patricia. Nice to see you. Patrice, you better read them, because I've got one eye on it. Millie there from Bali Vedic Astrology. Hi, Millie. I see you. Millie comes and joins me on the Patron pages for the Zoom chats, so that's why I know who Bali Vedic Astrology is. And these chats that we do today will also be continued on Monday. If you want to be a patron, if you're tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 patron, you can join us.
And good evening, Lorraine from Wareham, Dorset, one of our favourite places.
Yeah, we were saying today it'd be nice to have been able to go down places like that, wouldn't it, and get away from all this horrible lockdown. Linda, hi, Craig and Jane from Linda in Lansing, MI.
Where's that, Craig?
Missouri, is it? MI? Missouri, I suppose.
You haven't got a clue.
I don't know. You're probably somewhere in England. Carol Stewart, hi, Carol. Good Friday from Lance and Carol Stewart in North Bay, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we can get a lot of people interested in Canada.
I like KD Lang, who comes from Canada.
Yeah, and Leonard Cohen, didn't he? Nia Rosa Hughes, hi, both from North Wales. I've got a bit of a cough again tonight.
Nadine, hi, Nadine.
Hope you're well. Yeah,
Nadine from Gosport.
Has she?
Yeah.
She came on before, yeah, because obviously we
One
get
of
to know
Danielle-
some of you, of
One of
course.
Danielle's friends.
Yeah, Eva. Hi there, Eva. Hello from USA. This is Eva. Nice of you to join. Of course, a lot more people are coming from the USA today, I expect, because it's a longer show, so people can come in a bit later, in an hour's time. Hello from Rohanna saying hello from SWUSA from Rohanna. SW. What's that one stand for? I don't know. Alun, hello from Hong Kong. Yeah, we have a lot of followers from Hong Kong. I believe there was some stuff in the newspapers about us over there
Ian
recently.
Tracy Baker, hi from Prestwick, Manchester.
Great. Another dog lover, I see.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just joining us, we're going to have two parts today, and I'll explain it briefly before we get started in a minute again for those that have just joined.
Alison.
Good evening from Old Shaftesbury Town, Dorset.
I like Shaftesbury. We've been there,
yeah, I
haven't
like
we?
Dorset, yeah. Shaftesbury, that's where you get the bread from, isn't it? With the where they push those bikes up there.
Hovis.
Yeah. Linda is saying hello from Cyprus.
Oh yeah, Linda.
We've never been to Cyprus, have we?
No. Namaste from New Delhi, India. Chandra. Prema.
Chandni, yeah. Prem.
Truth.
Prem means love, I think.
And truth.
You guys look sexy as usual from Toronto, Canada. You can come again.
But she needs glasses.
Yeah, actually, you better adjust the
Craig.
focus in the background.
My God, she's got it right. You do.
Hello from Teresa in Leamington Spa. Hi there, Teresa. Nice of you to join us. See, a lot of you are following us now from Facebook. Michelle, hi, both from West Coast of Ireland.
Oh, I like Ireland.
Yeah, we got blood from Ireland, haven't we?
Yes.
My great nan came from Cork. Ginger tea, we see you quite often. And I've got some ginger tea for myself tonight here. Southwest, from the Southwest. Nice of you to join us. So we're just saying hello to everybody until everybody can get online, so we don't all come online at once.
Ronnie from Netherlands. Hello, Ronnie.
Hi there, Ronnie. Namaste, I am Bhagavat Das from Germany. Hi there, Bhagavat Das. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. And there's been quite a few interesting things from the Indian people in the background happening, actually.
Delia Crossman, SW Southwest, M is Michigan.
Oh, is it?
Is that near Detroit? Then that must be near Detroit.
Don't get me going on geography, particularly American geography. It's like trying to ask an American where Wales is. They never know.
Town of Motown came from Detroit.
Yeah. Hello from Ohio. Staying clear of COVID. Yes, thank goodness, Melissa.
Yeah,
thank you.
We all are.
We're all being super careful here in the UK. You only need to watch the news. It's been really
Selena.
bad.
Hi, Selena. Lovely to see you. I do know Selena.
Okay, yeah, we've obviously got friends from Facebook coming in as well. Here,
Selena. Lovely, Selena.
Much more talkative than the rest of you. So hello from France. Oh, that's nice.
Who's that from France?
Etoile.
It's Bridget Bardot.
I'm sure people make difficult names up, so we can't say them. Hi from Brighton. Oh, Wendy. Yes, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Wendy was one of our early sponsors. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Wendy. Nice to see you again. Good you come online with us. We're going to talk about past lives tonight and things like that.
June
from Tottenham, Southampton. Yeah, and I'll tell you all about some of the things about it later on too before we get started, because it's a two-part one tonight, so you've got 2 hours of it. Namaste from Delhi, India. Ashish. Hello from.
Come on, get it out, boy. Get it out. Come on.
Nice to see you from Vietnam. Vietnam, all around the world. We've got everybody. We've got the whole globe covered except the South Pacific. So I'm very disappointed with those people in the South Pacific who haven't bothered to join us tonight.
King Tonga wants King Tonga.
So today's topic is, who were you in a past life? And I just briefly explain again, because I said at the top of the thing that we're going to have two parts today. We're going to have a 5-minute break in the middle, in which we'll be showing you some snippets of videos and bits and pieces. So it's just a little compendium type of thing. So it'll give you a chance for a comfort break, or more important, me a chance for a comfort break. And
a toilet break.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And then we'll have a second part of the show, which will be different, which will be, you've seen the ones where me and Domenico just have a chat. We'll just be having a chat with Domenico. But in the second part, if you've got a proper video connection on your whatever device you're using, and you can definitely know you've got sound, and we're not getting a load of feedback and things. If you put your past life experience, you type it in, you can put a detail, it doesn't matter because we won't put that on the screen, but you can tell us what you've felt or what you'd like to talk about, and we can pull you in as a live guest for us if you like, and we can talk about some of your thoughts and what's happened to you, particularly if you've had a very powerful past life experience. Okay, so the first thing I think we need to talk about is, how do you remember your past life? I've got a few notes that I've made, so right. I can guide us through.
Okay, some people get regressed, don't they, by hypnotherapists? Okay,
so we got regression. Okay, this is hypnotic regression. We'll talk about that first. The first off the list. I've got a whole list of them here, but Jane's obviously got an eye on it here too. Yeah. Well, past life regression. A lot of people will, under hypnosis, express all sorts of proofs of past lives, and I've got a few that I'm going to talk about in part 2 of the show that I'll share with Domenico when we go on. And I've seen past life regression, and it is quite remarkable. I've seen people talk in foreign languages. I've seen people that I know exhibit completely different personality types. And I've been regressed a couple of times myself in the past. You were saying to Joan something, your mum, weren't you, about yours? What happened with yours then?
I done one past life, and because first of all, you're worrying if it's auto-suggestion or anything. And they took me right back to France, and I saw these lovely French lime trees, and I had a kestrel that landed on my arm. And I've always wanting to go back, as you know, to buy a chateau in France. Okay,
just because you watched that program.
No, it's not, Craig. No, it's not. And then I had another past life that I was taken back to India as a holy man set on a rock, and I had all these white lines here, and one night I actually, when I went to bed early, just looking in the mirror, and I actually saw a transfiguration of my past life go over my face. And I remember putting my hand out, and it was very, very much what I was shown in a past life regression. And of course, another interesting thing is children, very much, they talk about their past life, and they've actually taken their parents to another place. We'll go on to that one
as a next subject in a minute. Yeah. So just keeping on that on the hypnotism. And also, I think I would also include in there meditation too, because I think meditation takes you into those deeper spaces that you access in hypnosis, except in meditation, you're doing it with your will intact, as it were. You're not having to be pushed out the side.
About feelings, what people get going into buildings.
Yeah, we'll go on to those as well. But I was keep on the hypnotism one, because the hypnotism is like, I also had hypnotic regression, and that's very similar to you, had some very interesting...
Have you come out of it, Craig? Have you come out of it? Have you?
But do you remember we had that experience that we both had a similar dream, didn't we? In which we were in France, and it felt like France to me, and we were being attacked from people from behind. And I described that dream to you. This is when we first met, Let's talk about weird stuff when you first meet, of course. And, we both had the same sort of dream, almost in its entirety.
Birthmark on
and we both had a similar birthmark on the back of our neck, because we thought we were being attacked from behind in the dream, and the head's probably severed. So that could be reference to the French one that you talked to.
And about archery with the arrows in our back going upstairs.
That's right. And we had exactly the same dream. And similarly, I also had when I was hypnotically regressed, I was sat on a hilltop in the Himalayas, so very similar to what you've described there. And I was finding it difficult to accept, because part of me was conscious and part of me wasn't under hypnosis. And I don't think I'm a hugely susceptible hypnotic person. I think I kind of still half there, my logic saying, I'm not sure this is true, or it's just what I'd like to think, and that can be an obstacle in hypnosis. And I've hypnotized people myself. I've done hypnotic regression on people.
Did you hypnotize me to fall in love with you? Then?
You will remain in the state. Look around the eyes, all around the eyes. Okay, yeah. So hypnotic regression is, of course, one way in, which a lot of people. I think there's a lot of proof in that, particularly with the research that's been done, and we could talk about the more detailed stuff like that later on. Now, we also mentioned about dreams, didn't we? So if you're looking to discover who you were in a past life, you've got the hypnotic regression one. And often you'll be taken back. Hypnotic regression will take you back through your life, through your childhood, to the point you're in the womb, and then take you back what happened before that, And there's hypnosis and hypnosis, isn't there? Because we had that other silly fella that you had a hypnotic regression with. I'm not going to mention his name. It was an apprentice of ours at one point, and I didn't really feel that was a really. That was more like a fantasy type thing. So there's hypnosis.
Going back to the cathars.
Yeah, there's hypnosis and hypnosis. There's fantasy hypnosis, and I think the real thing where you encounter something unusual. So one of the best ways people can get access to knowledge of past lives is through dreams. Like, we had that similar experience. Like, so what things can you look for in a dream to give people understanding of this is not just my fantasy, but this is past lives? Well,
I also feel connection when you go to buildings or places, because it feels very real that you've been there before.
Yeah, so I was going to come on to that one as another topic later.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, let's talk about
dreams. I'm a woman that's ahead of myself, obviously.
So the things like places and scenes in a dream can be important, though. But like you say, they could reflect places and find later, and you get senses of deja vu which you've experienced already in a dream.
Yeah.
Because some people think that deja vu, for example, is recalls of forgotten dreams. There's lots of things about.
And what about clearing past lives? If you've had some sort of negative past life as well, that's important.
And then there's the places and scenes in a dream. Are they symbolic to you, or are they do they represent something you couldn't possibly know about? Like if you dream of historic places, why are you dreaming of historic places you've never been to? So that could give you a sense of knowing past lives. Recurring dreams also are very important, because why do you get these recurring odd dreams that seem to have nothing to do with your normal life? Like I always used to have recurring dreams about being in other cultures and other places. I won't go into details about them, but and places that I kind of know in the dream, and I go back. Have you had this, Jane, where you go back and you have the same dream in the same place, and it's a place I've never been to in my life?
Yeah, I know when I have dreams, they're very lucid, and sometimes I continue that dream, like daydreaming, if you like, and it feels so real.
Yeah, and have you ever dreamed that you're actually a completely different personality?
Yes.
Personality is completely different.
My past life dream has always been as male, and it's only in this life female.
Yeah, and in fact, they say in the Nadis and things, they say that it's 50-50 between male and female births. So we all have 50% of both. And then I think you probably, as you progress, I expect you settle on one sex for birth. I'd imagined it. But anyway, who knows? It depends what happened. But we just definitely experience both sides of things. And of course, childhood is another time when past life knowledge seems to come to the fore. I mean, a lot of the good proofs of past life have often come from children who know things they shouldn't know. Know things about people.
What about the little Indian boy that said, "You're not my mummy and daddy, I've got another mummy and daddy"?
Yeah, there's lots of them.
And he named the place and the birth thing, and they researched it, and it was absolutely spot on.
Yeah, in fact, that's the story I'm going to talk about later. I've got it written because I wrote about it in my book.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
But yeah, you didn't. I did. So, but that's interesting, isn't it? The childhood. And like that little boy we met that time.
Oh, that was fascinating.
You remember that?
That's when we were down at
Larwood Cove.
Larwood Cove. Yeah, but he just came out with it.
He just came 7. Just started talking to me about his past life. I didn't know him. Little boy came up.
He came up to you, yeah.
And he started talking about past lives to me. And I said, "Oh, really? And you were King Whatsit, were you?" And I obviously got genuinely interested in it. Then his mum came over. "Oh, is he going on about being King Harold or something? He was King something or other. And this was his domain. This is where he ruled. He ruled Wessex."
Yeah.
I mean, how did he know that? He was what? How old would he be?
7.
Do you think? I think he was younger than that.
No,
'cause
he's about 7.
He wasn't very old, but he was
And he
absolutely
spoke beautifully,
convinced.
didn't he?
And
And why did he come up to you to let you know? Did he acknowledge you in a past life?
He felt he needed to tell me.
Yeah.
Because perhaps it was because he knew that I was awake to it.
Perhaps you were a friar or something in a past life.
I don't think so.
Well, you don't know, do you?
Christian.
Eh? Well, you might have been.
So I think when in childhood, certain things attract you in childhood too. I mean, I think a way to find out who you were in a past life often is to think about those things in your early life that first interested you. Why were you immediately interested in certain types of things, like music or painting or science or art or what?
Well, the creative side with art and that's one thing that go back in a past life. And why are we interested in glittery things or in psychic? That would go back into an Indian life, because very much I remember going to India and staying in Sai Baba's ashram, and one of the Indian ladies said, Auntie, you must have been Indian past life, so glittery lady.
Yeah. Well, we're both so attracted to India, aren't we?
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it's
crazy,
really, the way India's had such a draw to us. And of course, I also had I was able to access the Nadi oracles, and that's not easy for most people because they are so hard to get to the proper ones. You can go and get a fake Nadi reading, but that's not going to do you any good. But if you can actually get to the Nadis, I mean, they tell you so much about your present life and such detail without you.
I think we also ought to go and talk how people want to tune into their past life. We could teach people how they can do it.
Well, that's what we're talking about now, really.
Yeah, I know. How they can
ways in.
How they can sit down and visualize.
Well, of course, you can also use well, the Nadis anyway are a difficult route for most people, but because they gave me so much confirmation of my life, and as long as if you had a Nadi reading, because I know people join us from India here, if you have a Nadi reading, you've obviously got to watch out for them knowing anything about you. So as long as you're completely anonymous to them, so there's no way they can even know your name, and they can't fish for it, and you don't give them any information except yes and no, they will tell you your name.
Yeah,
they will tell you your actual date of birth, but the time of your birth. And in my case, they told me about my mother's name, my father's name, my wife's name, my ex-wife's name, the children's names, none of which they could have researched on the internet because I was doing it completely anonymous. They couldn't they wouldn't have had a hope in hell of knowing who I was because I put so many restrictions in the way. And then if they tell you about your past life, it's much more believable. And Jane and I are both referencing the Nadi as being from India many times and the whole series of lives there. But hence our interest,
yes, but
I think,
what I
in
find
mediumship.
interesting is gurus recognize who we are.
That's true. Sometimes we've seen holy men, haven't we? And they've told us
who we were.
And they told us that, that they said that you were with Ramana Maharishi, for example. We were told on one occasion, both of us, and that was reconfirmed again. And I don't particularly like Ramana Maharishi's ideas necessarily.
Sharavana said he told me that we played together in a village as children.
Yeah, and that we were also with Sridi Baba. So all those are fascinating
What does he call me, Sharavana, when you went to India?
He called you Shakti and he called me Shiva. There's Shiva. Where's Shakti gone then? He said it. So these are all kind of like methods that you can use. You can also, of course, deliberately use meditation and perhaps even fantasy a bit to take yourself back. There's techniques you can use, and I might do some of those in the Zoom things as well. And I'm going to do that on Monday, where you can just go into a meditation and open the door to it, as it were. This is what some call hypnotic regression, but it's not. It's kind of a guided visualization, which will take you into another realm. But the danger is, of course, we don't know if it's your fantasy or it's a reality, but it's information you can work with.
It's best where they write it down afterwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they can check it.
Well, yeah, you need to keep a record or record it. I always think it's a good thing to record any sessions you have with psychics so you can see if anything's been fed back that you've already told them, for example.
Because some people have been known to speak in spirit tongue too.
Well, then people have spoken in foreign languages and known lots of information they haven't known. One I'll talk about later on is where the little boy found the money that was hidden, and he knew where it was and took them to it. Oh, yes,
I saw that.
So, hi, how can one tap to past lives? I'm sure in ancient Egyptian times, because I'm mesmerized with them. What the Egyptian culture was around a long time, so I expect a lot of people did have past lives in Egypt. And well, these are the ways that I've been describing, really, how you can tap in. You can tap in through your dreams. You can tap in by your childhood memories. You can, of course, also sometimes a psychic might tell you something. But if I tell someone or Jane tells someone about their past life, that information is useful, perhaps, but there's no guarantee that it's not come from our own imagination. So if 3 or 4 psychics or mediums, better mediums, are telling you information about that you lived in Egypt, then there's a pretty good chance, as long as you've not given them clues to that, and as long as you've not said, oh, you know, I want to know about my past life, particularly my one in Egypt, and they said, oh, yes, you were in Egypt, that's no good. They've got to get it from out of nowhere. Then it might mean something to you. But of course, then there's also a lot of fantasy about it too, because everybody likes to think that they were Cleopatra or the Nefertiti, or that they were the pharaoh. You know, they don't think of themselves as being the farmer that was out.
See, that person as we're talking,
fields.
it's not I'm doing the reading, Craig, but I saw a rune stone with the initial for the sun. So that person would have been in Egypt. Yeah.
So you see that you could get confirmation from when you see different psychics and mediums and the holy men. I mean, they often, that's been for us, it's been very interesting in India when the people that have been revered for their spiritual heights suddenly tell you something and it corresponds to what others have said. So you need to get the evidence and compare it, don't you? You need to build your evidence. It's not something you're going to find just like that and say, oh yes, I was Egyptian or I was a Roman or whatever.
Because everybody that I've met, they've come back and they said Henry VIII or Anne Boleyn. I thought, how many Anne Boleyns can you have in Henry VIII?
And how many beheaded people on the guillotines?
Yeah.
And also, for most people, because of the huge population in this world, most people, it's their first time as a human existence. They would have come up through the animal kingdoms, because how many, we haven't been here certainly as a civilization. We've been here millions of years, obviously developing from the developing into the human form, but this human civilization hasn't been around that long, 10, 15,000 years, isn't it? And there's more people on Earth today than every single person that's ever lived before in history, and just now.
Well, people are living longer, that's why.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's because, so not everybody could have multiple past lives unless there's multiple realities and multiple levels of existence and multiple timelines, which is another interesting way of seeing these things. I've done some regression hypnosis sessions, and I've lived as an angry monk, a warrior, and in the, can't quite read it, 1950s, I starved myself to death as an angry yogi. I'm no longer angry.
Oh, well, it's worked for you then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cleopatra, that's a karmic thing, isn't it?
My first Nadi reading told me that I used to keep the temple. I was I used to run the temple, and I used to get angry with anybody that broke the rules and things like that, and would throw people out of the temple, empty the temple.
But Jesus had a temper on him. Craig, and through
he
things.
Beat the donkey, didn't he? And he turned over the
seeing all the Jewish people, the money lenders.
Yeah, he had quite a temper. Yeah,
it doesn't mean because you're spiritual you haven't got a temper.
I think often spiritually minded people can have a temper because they get morally outraged. I mean, you see things wrong done in the world. And the interaction isn't always all peace and love, man, is it? It's often, I want to do something about this, So I think these are the ways in. Also, another thing that might be an interesting way is coincidences, Sometimes I think if there's a hint of a past life around you, things that are related to the previous life kind of come your way again. I think the people from your previous lives come your way.
Oh, definitely.
Again.
You meet up again. I believe that.
And I think those people are likely to have similar thoughts about their previous life as well.
And I think it's no coincidence that you meet those people from a past life, because you're meant to get unfinished business, if you like, and a completion in this life.
And we had past lives in common that we've described to each other, haven't we? Which we described before when we first met each other. So we didn't know much about each other really at that point.
Do we still?
Yeah, I'm a mystery. I am a mystery. I'm a mystery to myself. Who is this guy? But perhaps those things we have in common with each other may indicate that we've had common past lives together. So there's things like that. So there's lots of different ways in to get to. Have you who in your life do you think you've met before? Have there been people that you've instantly known and instantly friends with? For no reason, because you just immediately know there's a big connection. Some of my very best friends have been like that. They're people you've just known
That's
before.
Interesting one.
You owe me 50 quid, by the way.
You're pinching one of my lines. I knew you in a past
Hello
life.
from Japan. My psychic friend told me that I was a stargazer in Korea when she was a Japanese monk. LOL. Laughing out loud. So
yeah, I would want proof of that.
Yeah, you see, that's fine. They can tell you that. But then if you get confirmation, isn't it, really?
Yeah, you've got to have proof.
You've got to have a form of proof of some sort.
It's like someone telling you, Craig, you were an alien.
Yeah,
somebody actually asked.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I've had some very strange messages about who I've been in past lives.
Lizard.
Blimey, lizards and aliens and all they great Atlantis. No proof whatsoever. And I mean, we've come across so many funny things, haven't we? People who have grandiose ideas about who they were in past life, particularly in spiritualism, haven't we? Yes. I remember some of the people that have said
avatars.
Who they, yeah, that there had been an avatar in a past life. And often the people that have the most grandiose past lives are the people who in this life are big time underachievers. Who've done nothing in their life whatsoever, achieved nothing. So they seem to think that by having some grandiose past life, it therefore makes them feel better about their own failures.
Dominica put something up just now. I couldn't read it.
Yeah. So I think so. You've got to be cautious about. You've got to be realistic about past life stuff. And whether we really were special people. Or whether we were, the toilet cleaner in medieval Rome, a medieval town.
In a way, it's proving existence, isn't it, from a previous incarnation? You have to have
You've got to prove it. It's a bit like mediumship, isn't it?
It's proven.
We've got to prove
Evidential
it. Prove it and prove it and prove it.
The advisor. I led an army revolt against the authority of that time. Revolt was suppressed and I went into exile. Later, I was assassinated by authority in a surprise encounter. The advisor, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No, assassinated. So he was put into exile in an armed revolt. Now that's
Napoleon.
Well, again, it could be all sorts of things, and that's quite interesting because obviously with you, we don't know your background and things, but I'm sure if you were to explain that in detail, these things are probably nothing to do with your normal life whatsoever. I don't know if you're male or female, for example, but why do you get those dreams that come all those impressions, because you haven't said it's a dream, but you get these impressions of something that comes, it's completely different to your life. I'm sure you've not led armed revolts in this life, for example. So you were obviously a revolting person in the past life.
God.
But no, what I mean, these things come out of the blue, don't they? We don't know where they come from.
If I look at that, I sense a fear in the past life. Yeah. Fear.
And the thing is, you got to distinguish between things that are coming
reality
genuinely from a past life memory, or from something that is like an unconscious, like a dream-like state. Expressing things about yourself, because. If you only think about what dreams are like, they're remarkable things that weave all sorts of strange metaphors and stories about, express our feelings and things. And we can't say that's all past life stuff, but maybe hidden amongst it somewhere, something that isn't connected with our own feelings, something where we can strip away that symbolism. And there's something that stands completely out of the blue
Well,
that could be
you
a
know,
true past life memory.
Well, I believe in past lives, and you might find your soulmate in this life that you were connected before.
Yeah.
And this brings me on to the next one for you, Craig.
Yeah, now this is interesting. I've done a past life regression, and I've been a king in Kumari Kandam. Now that was Lumeria. That was the big area that a legend tells us that sunk beneath the sea, that was south of Tamil Nadu. I lost my wife and had a bonding with her back in Lumeria. Craig, you had done a reading for me back in 2018.
You won't remember,
You see,
would you?
I won't remember the reading, Rajiv, but I certainly believe in Lumeria or Kamari Kandam, because it's been mentioned a number of times in the Nadis. And that makes me think, well, you know, because I put a lot of faith in those things, because it gives me proof. And if it gives me all this proof, and it's like mediumship, you know, if a person gives you lots and lots of evidential proof from the spirit world, you can pretty much trust the messages afterwards, because if they're getting that right, it's likely they're going to get the rest right, you know. So when Doris Stokes, for example, told me incredible proof about people I knew, and my grandma and things like that, and names and all the rest of it, when she started telling me what would happen in my future, then I kind of went with it. And it's the same with that. So I believe that Kumari Kandam was an absolute reality, that it did happen, that it sunk beneath the sea. Maybe that's where we got the Atlantis things from. So maybe you were, Rajiv. And the thing is, if you've been told that, either maybe even by me, I don't know, if I can't remember the reading, or by other mediums, make sure you get confirmation, you know, make sure, and with all of anything from anybody, you need to get more confirmation, always, so that you build the evidence. It's a bit like in mediumship too. You don't immediately get proof of life after death, do you? You get it over a period of time.
So the little details and the proof. A lot of people don't understand it.
And a person might go, say, to a spiritualist church for years and years and years, and then they gradually get so much information that it's proven to them.
I always believe if the need is great, then spirit will come through.
Yeah, indeed. And they may come through time and time again to give you so much evidence that there's absolutely no doubt in your mind that it's the real deal, you know, that we continue after death. And I think the same has to apply to reincarnation. We have to get proof. Okay, another one from India. Obviously, people from India are quite interested in this, which is nice.
Isn't it?
Hello from India. I was told by a psychic that my surname is an anagram of African because I've lived most of my past lives in Africa and I have a deep connection with that continent. Yeah, well, that's quite interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, well, it is. It definitely is. I mean, I was told in one past life I was a Zulu, and a witch doctor told fortunes by bones.
Really?
Yeah.
Who told you that one? That was
He was a medium. This is way before I met you, because, as you know, I was doing nursing and that. And
oh, was that medium Nelson?
no, it wasn't
okay.
a medium Nelson. It was a charge nurse, actually. He used to do tarot reading as a mediumship in the staff room. And he said, you can tell fortunes. And he said, you were a Zulu and you were a witch doctor in past life. That's why I cast a spell on you, Craig.
So maybe my hypnotism didn't work, did it? So, yeah, I'm sure one of the things, you know, we all jump cultures, you know. If we have multiple human lives, then we must jump cultures quite a lot. We jump, you know, sometimes we're male, sometimes we're female, sometimes we're, you know, white skinned, sometimes we're dark skinned, sometimes we're in between, you know. I mean, it's all we must get
You've
a
still got
complete
your same
experience of human
consciousness, haven't
existence.
you? Whatever colour of creed you are.
But I'm sure certain cultures and things and certain lives must be more powerful than others. We must have some lives that are just ordinary and plain, you know, but there must be other lives where something dramatic has happened. You've been to war, or you've done some great spiritual step forward, and they're all ultimately a spiral that's taken us up and up and up until we gradually attain consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just about.
I mean, when you go to these
experience,
old buildings and you put your hand on a really old building, a castle, you wonder how many people lived in that castle and what they were like, and suddenly you see it in your mind.
Yeah, you get all sorts of
you have
images.
flashbacks.
You can see the past is hidden,
Yeah.
even in the fabric of everything around us.
Yeah.
And of course, there's this other idea of like the Akashic record, that when we go back into the spirit world again, we will have complete and total recall of all those previous lives and all those previous personalities, and we will know them as all being us, you know. So my personality now will be just part of a whole collection of personality that I probably had before, though I still may, you know, I communicated from the spirit world, I would use this personality. But so it's an interesting thing. What is personality? You know, who are we? But I'm sure we have an oversoul that keeps all that information.
On the time of death, which is going to go on this next one, is that you have your life flashed in front of you, all the rights and all the wrongs, like a film screen.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I had a car accident, and although I wasn't seriously injured, but I was coming off the edge of the motorway like that, and as the car was in the air, I thought, this is it. And I had a sudden, like a glimpse of the whole of my life. It was like a compressed version of it. And then the thought came to me. So I thought, oh, I'm going to die. And there was a calmness that, okay, I'm going to die. But then I thought, yeah, but actually there's a lot more I've got to do. There's a lot to do. And it was a real quite epiphany moment for me in some respects, because for me, that calmness was so strange. The acceptance of it. And I think we must experience that at death. And I think that recall, where it's all jammed in, some people say, I mean, some people think it's we live multiple lives. There's no such thing as reincarnation, but we just live this life over and over and over again. And that past life, last minute recall is a recall of the whole rerun of everything that's happened in this life. And then we're going to rerun it again and again and again. But that's another thought. But I do think we get for some reason, we get a glimpse while the brain is still alive of everything that happened.
Next question.
Go on, you could do some.
I have to put your glasses
on.
on.
I'll read it for you.
Oh, wait then.
Okay.
Jan, I understand that a past life regression as to take you through a previous moment of death. Is that so? I think we just answered that.
No, I think what she's asking there, yeah, you would. I mean, when I took someone back and did a past life regression on them, I just took them back through their birthdays. So I said, okay, I wanted to, because I was only a kid. I was about 16 or no less than that. I must have been 14 or 15 years old, and I got interested in regression. And I took my friend back and said, okay, now I'm going to take you back to 10 years old. I'm going to take you, and I took him back, to 8 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, and then. And at 4 years old, he started to panic because there was a situation where he nearly got killed at 4 years old, which I found out about later. And then we took him back to the womb, and then what was before, you know, and then he kind of awoken into a previous life, you know. It's just, and this is just young kids doing this. Probably, you know, shouldn't be doing it really at that age, but it had an important effect on me, and I think you will relive the whole lot right up to the death sequences as well, because when I've watched people under regression, some of those people were being taken through their lives to the point of death and then jump to the next life. So you do go through the death.
Sometimes it's useful when people are taking back past lives to clear things. I remember seeing a man that's regressed, and he was shaking like with Parkinson's and that, and he felt his life was over. And he was taken back, regressed and that. And suddenly it's like everything cleared from his past life, because he used to have the shakes, and suddenly he could hold like a glass and everything. He was healed.
Really? Where you saw that? That was
television.
Oh, on TV, that one. Yeah.
No, it was true.
Yeah,
and
I know they are. Yeah.
And somebody had a singing bowl, went anywhere near this person. And I was talking to this lady last night when I was doing a reading, and suddenly everything left, all stress left, and healing vibration.
And they say that a lot of the illnesses we carry into this life, of course, are memories of a past life. Like if a person's been burned in a past life, for example, burned at the stake, they come into this life with severe skin conditions or weaknesses that we have in our body, and maybe continuations from things that we, you know, previous illnesses we've had in previous lives, particularly markings that would suggest wounds or birthmarks that have
or scars
are the results of something from before. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And also our memories as well. I think our body contains all the memories of our previous lives, that certainly contains the essence of it, the energy of it, the slight memory.
Right.
I think that's all in the spinal column.
Now, T says, how many past lives can you have? Very interesting topic. Not so familiar with past. Well, it depends, I think, on your incarnation. Some people might have 8 lives. Some people might have hundreds of past lives.
Well,
Depends on your karma.
The Buddhists say that, I mean, you've had so many past lives that every being on this earth at some point has been your mother.
Well,
so if you're an insect, treat it well, because at one life point it was your mother.
Well, my grandmother say you never kill spiders if you want to stay alive. Never kill spiders that run alive, because the Buddhists believe that even an ant is important because they have a purpose on the earth.
And the Jains.
Every creature has a purpose. Every creature.
That's why I think Buddha was probably a Jain originally. But if that was the case, it would be impossible for us to have that many human lives, which makes me think that maybe reality has multiple layers of existence. So there was a million different Egypts, a million different Romes, a million different
It's
Greece.
like when you go to sleep at night, you don't know you've been asleep until you wake up in the morning, do you? Because some people have a fear going to sleep because they die in the sleep.
I think one of the strangest things is the fact that we forget our past lives. You know, that we're left with the slight. It seems like the memories that get pushed forward into the next life are the people that recall their past lives are often people that have died suddenly, have unfinished business, and reincarnate into this world immediately. They don't go to the spirit world to adjust to all what's happened, to resolve themselves before the next life. Instead they've skipped a stage.
Well,
they jump from the spirit, they bounced back into this life.
I mean, the Dalai Lama, when they look for the new Lama, is things that he will recognize on a tray, which is prayer beads, a bell, and certain things that belong to him. And one thing is absolutely what he had in previous incarnation. And when he chooses that, they know that's the Lama. Yeah,
that's all absolutely fascinating, the way he's done. And he's obviously deliberately skipping the afterlife. You know, he's coming straight back, which is quite a sacrifice to make, actually, because there's no pension for the Dalai Lama. They live one life and they come straight back. There's no going to the afterlife or going into higher states of consciousness and leaving this world. Tremendous power. A lot of other holy men will do that too.
Well, we've met the Dalai Lama, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean some of the more extreme Indian yogis will at the point they're about to die will animate a corpse that will become their new body, as it were. Pull the dead child off animate the body of the dead child that's about to be burnt and run off, and he drops dead. You know, they swap bodies, as it were. So there's all sorts of possibilities about capabilities.
The psychic saw my daughter used to be a nurse who wanted to do a surgery to heal people but could not. I was so surprised because she wanted to be an operation nurse now.
Okay, so she saw that in advance then.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how old that daughter was.
Yeah, if the daughter was presumably the daughter was very young and she had that message and once she wants to be an operation nurse. Well,
but then it makes me wonder if that wasn't auto-suggestion, because the psychic had told the mother, and the mother might have said to the daughter, "What do you want to be? You grow up a nurse."
I think the people that take on a life as nurses, and particularly doctors and surgeons and things, are people who have suffered terribly in previous lives. I think they've had physical pain in previous life. I was talking to Vivek about this a little while back, and I thought that was a good thought, because the people that come, and it seemed again this was borne out in the Nadis, what it said, because he'd had a lot of medical things in his previous life, and I think those that want to help in this life are often those that have suffered badly, physically suffered badly in a previous life, and they think their remit is to clear the suffering in this world. Thanks for putting all your comments, folks, and do keep writing them down, because Domenico's in the background writing them down. So if you get if you want to ask any questions or any thoughts, do put them in. So Amy's saying, when you're told about a past life and you just don't feel it in your heart, that's true. Should you take that as a lack of confirmation? Well, I think you've got to go from your feelings. I think you're right, Amy. I think you're probably right, Amy. I think we know in our heart who we were and what we were. And remember,
it often, there's so many people that claim to be psychics nowadays, that there's an awful, I'd say 80% that are doing it, are just saying things to you that are sort of general things. And it's very easy, like our psychics, it's very easy to tell people about the future, but don't tell them anything about their present situation, because anybody can sort of make things up. And it's very easy to tell people about past lives, because there's no confirmation of that. So you've got to be a bit cautious what people tell you. And I think this is for all of us. You've got to be very careful. Just because a person says they're psychic doesn't necessarily mean they are.
And I think you must use your own will.
Yeah, and also mediumship in spiritualism. We were always taught, I work outside of spiritualism, but they were always told you mustn't give past lives in a spiritualist church. And part of that reason is because it's not, you can't give confirmation of that. You can prove with mediumship life after death, and you can prove something about someone who died, but you can't prove anything about its past lives. Is more speculation. So within the spiritualist church, not that saying it doesn't exist, because it's a split decision about that between most spiritualists, but the fact is you don't use it on the platform because it can't really be part of a provable remit where, the religion is based on proof and evidence.
You're not to also do medical diagnosis.
No, there are all things like that. There's lots of rules that you have when you work with them. And I wish all psychics and mediums knew that. Now, you can give information about past lives, but not in the context of a spiritualist demonstration, for example, but which I think is quite important.
I think Amy's right. Just go with what you feel.
So, yeah, I think you've got to know it in your heart, ultimately. I think you'll kind of know it.
Yeah.
And I think you'll get kind of a confirmation. But don't fantasize too much as well. Don't think you were a terrible person, or don't think you're a good person. Don't think you were a genius then, but you're not now. I mean, really, it's not what's important. That's past. That's why we forget it, isn't it? Because it's what we are now and what we do in this life that's important.
Good values.
But it could give you some insight into the sort of karma you've got to work on.
As Celia says, my son, when he was very young, kept saying he had many friends with him. And one day he said, we had to say goodbye to them. He's about 2 or 3 years old. Well, the very fact that child was 2 or 3, children usually don't lie because they can see things, because their perceptions are open.
Yeah.
And they've got no fear. Because I can remember Justin, when he was that age, he said, my great-grandfather came to me and said it was his birthday. And I said, what do he look like? He said, oh, there was a cloud and it was all dark around him. I only saw his face, because no one believed him. And when we checked out with Ron, it was his father's birthday.
I mean, I think the sort of evidence you get from kids,
well, they're amazing,
is incredible. Both proof of spirit world and near-death experiences. I mean, some of the stuff that the kids have said from near-death experiences, the most fascinating proof of the lot. Because, like you say, they're pure. They're not going to make it up.
They're pure, and they see auras. And I mean, when I was a child, about 3, my mother told me the other day, you always used to keep on about an orange light and colours all the time, seeing around people's heads, because it was auras.
Yeah, as kids, you just don't question it. You just know
Take
these
it
things.
for granted.
And you forget it, And I think it's quite good, if you can, to explore your past, your early memories from childhood. What were the first things you had? That will bring you close to an understanding. So Domenico's put a list up to remember to subscribe, because a lot of you might be coming to this video for the first time. So if you click that little bell thing, and if you come to us regularly and you keep thinking, oh, we'll keep missing Craig and Jane, click the little bell thing on the bottom of the screen on the YouTube, because if you click the bell, you'll get an update reminders. And give it a like as well, because it always helps us with the video to
what about stars
keep it
as
up.
well?
Yeah, I don't know about stars.
Well, if you get so many stars, is what the other's doing, it brings up more higher ranking.
You're talking about Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Whatever that might be.
You know nothing.
Okay, we're coming up to the last questions now. And if you're really interested in this topic as well, I'm going to be doing something on Monday on the Patron site on the Zoom, so you can ask me more questions, and we're going to extend this a little bit further, this idea of past lives, because on the Patron site now, the Patron thing is really, it's just people that want to help us. You can help us with the Patron, or you can do another thing, which is buy us a cup of coffee, which is all in the links of the comments, to help us with this channel, and also help us with our work of trying to get together a spiritual center. And we are on the way. We're hoping to have the first step towards something like that is basically a rental room at first where we can do recordings like this in a much more interesting scale with people with us. So we're on the route. So if you want to become a patron, do have a look in the comments below and in the description on the YouTube below. You can also get various little benefits as extra little bits and things, and you'll also be able to have the Zoom classes with myself. Right, so thanks to all you patrons, because I know a lot of you are on here.
What's that?
And if you want to talk with us online, have a word with Domenico. Okay, impossible name to pronounce this.
Nilard.
We are recurrent dreams sometimes, just remembering past lives. I
Up.
often dream about living in a cave up above the ocean. Yeah, I think recurrent dreams are a very important part of it, personally. I mean, I've had so many.
Sounds like a yogi to me.
Yeah, there's so many dreams, where I've had dreams of, places, and I've even drawn maps of those places. I know it in such detail, and in the dream, I sort of in this place. One's an island, it's an island somewhere with a. It's like a Pacific island with a bay and everything. I know exactly what it was like. It was very similar to one we went to. In when we were in the Seychelles, because I remember commenting to you, that's a place they're so close to what it was in my dreams. That's all right. It doesn't matter. That's in the background. You can forget about that. So it was fascinating that we had these amazing recalls of places that every time you go back, it's like you carry on the story. So I think the whole idea of recurrent dreams, actually, Leonard, N.L. Leonard, I got it. Is really quite significant. In fact, one of the most significant ways.
Walter's spiritual, and he's living in a cave above. He's quite a spiritual being, and it sounds like he was a yogi or that.
Well, he could have been. Who knows what? And there's obviously a significant life, and the cave itself must be significant.
Yeah.
I mean, and if it's a recurring dream, of course, a recurring dream can be unresolved problems that we have in our life, particularly from childhood. Freud and Jung talked about that a lot. Skinner didn't. He wasn't interested in any of that type of thing. But
how do you know,
he
Craig?
Wasn't. He was just playing with rats.
You're going by books.
But the thoughts of so it could be symbolic. It could repressed memories and things like that come up through recurring dreams. But I think it's also deeper significance to it. Why do we have that? Where did it come from? And sometimes it's so surreal. It's so out of context with the rest of your life that it makes a lot of sense. I
think your past lives are very important because it's who you are today, that you've brought back experiences in this life. Very important.
Yeah, it's what we're doing now that's really important. Okay. So anyway, thanks to all the patrons to help on this channel. I also want to send our thanks out to the people in Holland, actually, who have picked up on the Donald Trump predictions and are doing a Havan, a Yagna, to help America, a world Yagna, which is it's nice of you. I think some of you might be watching now. And we're going to have an interlude now. We're going to have 5 minutes for your comfort break, and then we're going to come back. But this will be slightly different when we come back because we're going to be interacting with Domenico. And don't forget, if you'd like to share your experiences with us and have a chat with us, we can do it on screen. Hopefully we'll be able to hear you all right. I'm not quite sure if it'll work, but it should work. Okay. And we can perhaps listen to what you have to say as well. So we'll say bye almost for now. We'll see you in a moment. And we're going to have an interlude now and see you in about 5 minutes or so.
Would you like to know more about the paranormal world? Craig Hamilton Parker's books are now available on Amazon. Explore the future. Discover what happens after death. Unlock the secrets of your dreams. Learn to develop your own psychic skills.
Like we've done psychometry. That's the energy in an object, and we've done the haunted house. energy in a house, well, we're going to find out energy in a lamp.
In Hampshire, medium Craig Hamilton Parker is running a course for people who believe they have a psychic gift. Over the last few months, his development circle has been learning how to make contact with the spirit world.
I just saw a sheep then.
There's something about gravy.
That's it. Oh my God, that is exactly what I can see.
Today, the student mediums are out looking for ley lines.
I'm going to get them to do a little bit of dowsing, and I brought these dowsing rods with me, Dalek-like things, exterminate, and they're going to try to find if they can discover a ley line here, which I know exists on the tumuli at the top. So do you know much about ley lines?
I don't know an awful lot, actually.
It's a node point, I believe, as well, which means that it's a sort of a special energy.
Yeah.
A lot of haunted houses are on nodes.
Believers in ley lines describe them as ancient paths of earth energy that link prehistoric sites.
That's, oh God, this compass is bloody new. That's, where's that map again?
North is that way.
That way, wasn't it? So we go further that way.
Yeah.
It should be over here. If you ask it a question, like which direction is the ley line, it should dip.
Sorry?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah,
when it happens, as the rods would cross, or you could even ask a pendulum as well can be used for the same sort of purpose.
I'm sure it's moving.
Try walking towards it. Your conscious mind already knows what's what here.
Yeah. Something going on by you.
So you reckon that direction, do you?
Oh yeah, look, yours are crossing over, like mine.
They are.
How?
There's an important reason for bringing the circle together today. Craig has chosen one member of the group to join him on stage at a local theatre. It's the ultimate test, performing as a medium in public for the first time.
Now, I'm sure you're all up to it, but I think you've got the guts to have a shot at this, Darren.
Love to, yeah.
Yeah? You feel all right about it?
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
Because it's going to be a full packed house we've got there.
Right.
But I'm going to ask all of you to come up on stage with us, and you're going to give Darren all the energy and support you can do. Yeah? No nerves, right? Just lots of energy. It doesn't matter what you get. Right. If you get one evidence, just one thing that can prove to somebody that there's a continuation of life after death. He's had consistency in his work within the circle. Some of the others have been a bit more intermittent with what they get.
Whoa.
I think Darren's got the looks, he's got the clairvoyance, and he's actually got the determination. I think with all those things put together, Darren will shine.
Very lucky, very privileged. I feel really good about it. I'm working with 5 other mediums. I'm in a group, and I feel very lucky to be the one that's chosen to go up on stage.
But nonetheless, I think again with these things, I think it's it's like with any scientific experiment. It's a number of proposals that are gradually build the evidence up to say everything's correct or not. And I think with mediumship it's the same. One needs to investigate quite a lot of it and quite a lot of mediums to find out where the proofs are or not. But I believe that the general bulk that has come through spiritualism certainly has convinced many a person and many a great mind, including, for example, the fellow that helped Darwin, Alfred Russel Wallace, who was, you know, I mean, he put the whole theory of evolution with Darwin originally. They presented it together, and Wallace even sent his papers to Darwin, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
So you'd have been defending a spiritualist if things had been slightly different in history.
Yeah. Yes, Wallace went decidedly odd in his old age, there's no doubt about it.
Newton went odd in his old age too, and so did Einstein. You know,
So,
it seems strange, doesn't it?
Oh, looks like we're back. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
Hi.
I was just beginning to get to that.
We're just enjoying
Who was
it.
that guy?
Enjoy too much.
So it's gonna be a lot more sort of just more conversational now, less animated than we are normally with our chats. Just a general sort of a bit of a chit chat with Domenico, because we have a chat usually afterwards, don't we, Domenico? And we thought, oh well, sometimes, you know, when we have these chats.
You say?
What did you say?
I said, let's have it live.
Yeah, so let's do it live. That was the thought. What did you think about some of those thoughts there today then, Domenico? Did you what questions and thoughts? Does anything you grabbed you as significant from that? I mean, I don't know what you think about reincarnation actually.
Well, that it's hard to prove. It's something that is hard to prove. Although I think that if the mistake with reincarnation is that people think that reincarnation happen only from past life to future life. Well, if there is a reincarnation, it doesn't come from the past only. It can come from the future, or it can come from the present.
I don't quite get that.
A person that would die right now, and at the same time another person will be born. Why not if that person is the same?
Right.
It could be many incarnations before that happens.
I mean,
so
we were having a chat before, weren't we, about this idea of eternal recurrence, which I think was an interesting concept, wasn't it? That we maybe there's no past lives, maybe there's no afterlife, and maybe we just relive this life time and time again. And that this feeling we get of deja vu is sort of a little bit of a glimpse of what we've already lived before, literally. And that sometimes when we get coincidences and synchronizations, it's like we've laid the path ahead of ourselves already from we've left messages to ourselves from our previous times we've lived this life. I think those ideas are almost an interesting alternative to reincarnation.
Subscribe.
CB actually got my point.
Sorry?
CB
So
actually.
Oh, okay, that's an interest. So can we incarnate to the past?
Yes.
That's an interesting concept.
That's my point.
So can we incarnate?
The day you will die is not... if there is a reincarnation and you die tomorrow, there is no guarantee that you would be reincarnated in the future, but you might reincarnate in the past, in a past life. And this will connect even with the idea that some people might have feelings that they already know something or they already saw it because actually they experience it in their future life.
Yes.
It's interesting.
So
this comes with the idea that the time is a human construct. Time does not exist as we know it.
But if that was the case, if we could incarnate into a past or into the future, then everything that's ever going to happen would have happened. There'd be no linear time, would there? There'd be no concept of time at all, because there would be no linear time.
There isn't a linear time. It
would have already
exist.
happened. It's all happened. So why is this existing? Why am I conscious now of being in a time stream? So what I'm saying there is it would be impossible to, if you incarnated in the past, then you're incarnating to something that's already happened. So in relation to our timeline now, I think that would be an impossibility. Even though time, like we talk about, is often something that is,
as Susan says,
not what we think it is.
As Susan says, past, present, and future, they are all happening at the same time. This one connects with the parallel universe theory, that everything that will ever happen is happening at the same exact moment. Why you are living just this moment right now is because the consciousness, the universal consciousness, wants to live that experience.
Yeah, they say that time is the universe's way of stopping everything happening all at once. You know, so in the quantum world, it kind of does all happen at once, doesn't it? I mean, if you look at, it's very hard for us to understand the quantum world. I think even the greatest quantum physicists find it hard to understand to any of us, because we're having to think there in the idea that particles can come in and out of existence and can travel backwards and forwards of time and can only exist if we observe them. And it questions what is time. doesn't it? So if we can't understand what time is, how can we possibly understand reincarnation? Because the whole idea of incarnation is that it's a linear thing, isn't it? That we have one life, then we have another life, then we have another life, then we have another life. But as has been brought up there in the point that was just on the screen a moment ago, could it all be happening all at once, or could it have already all have happened? You know,
Put it in
already. You know,
put it this way.
Everything I think and do is just an unfolding of the universe. Or if that was the case, then I'd have no will, would I? I'd have no free will. And I think that's a question. That's a question that would kind of throw another cat among the pigeons of those ideas.
No, hold on. Let's clear up something. First of all, the idea of incarnation as we know it, as you said before, that is, we are going from a past life to a new life, to a new life, to a new life, going forward. It was just like this because that's what the human mind can understand. The human mind, the original theory of reincarnation came was connected with the idea that time is linear. It goes from back to forth, right? It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. It cannot go 1, 12, 11. So because of this, the humans thought that reincarnation can only happen going in the future. It will never happen going in the past. But then, by thinking like this, you're basically missing the main point of the human consciousness, or better, the universal consciousness. Imagine if you were alone in the universe. There's nobody else but you. How would you be able to experience new things? How would you be able to experience good and bad? How would you be able to experience tasteful or non-tasteful if there is nothing else but you? So imagine the universal consciousness as one being that wants to learn, wants to experience. But because for this being does not exist any time, it's imagine like a god, you know, there is no time, there is no past, there is no present, there is no past, there is no future, there is only the present. That is past, future, and present at the same time. That consciousness wants to learn new experience, wants to try new experience, wants to feel new things. So what it does, it creates this different, splits into different souls that are spread throughout all the infinite universe. These souls then are jumping between the different universe. One way of reincarnation could simply be that you are going to relive your exiled life with some slight difference, some slight change.
Yeah, this is the eternal recurrence idea. Again, you're coming back to here.
But again, you could reincarnate.
It's the whole question of, you know, reality, isn't it, really? Because, you know, in the Indian thought, they talk about this idea of maya, you know, illusion, you know, and there's also the idea is if like, does anything happen or exist without my consciousness? The only thing that can exist is where my consciousness or your consciousness or our consciousness is. Wherever there is consciousness, things exist. Where you take consciousness away, does it disappear? It's like saying, it's like the old philosophical thought. If a branch or if an apple falls from a tree in a forest and nobody is there to witness it, did it happen? Do things only exist because our consciousness has been there? So in relation to reincarnation here, you know, the whole thing is, does anything exist? Can a thing exist even in the past? You know, can the past exist? Or can only the present moment exist? You know,
I'll put it in a different point, because what you're doing is you are considering the consciousness as each of us, like you, myself, and the people that are watching now. But there is a point. Franco says he doesn't buy the leaf same time because Buddha says all compounded things are transient. Therefore, all must change, and therefore nothing can be exactly the same again. But again, these come from human mind. All these thoughts that we see in the world, they are all limited to human knowledge. But there is one point that nobody puts in, and is, what if this world is just my reality? Because that's what I'm living, that's what I can see. If I close my eyes, I don't see anything. Who can tell me that you are real? Who can tell me that Jane is real? Who can tell me that everything I have around is real? Just because I can touch it, it does not mean that it's real. Virtual reality, for example, is growing so much that today you can buy gloves and bodysuit And when you are in this virtual world, you're feeling everything. Who can tell me
I think Franco's idea, the Buddha, there are quite interesting, because the Buddhists kind of give us the idea that nothing really has any permanence whatsoever, including the very self. You know, that our actual existence is empty of inherent existence. You know, the very self itself is empty of inherent existence. But clearly, there is something. You know, there is the absolute, and there is the manifest. And I think that because it's kind of the theme has been reincarnation. You know, just as this existence is an illusion, so too all the existences of previous lives are an illusion too. And I think when we come to the center of things, when we come to the very heart of our consciousness, when we go back, so we step back from this life, we step back from other lives, we step back and who am I, who am I, who am I, who am I? We can't answer that who am I question. We can only be. And I think when it comes to it, we have a kind of a realization that we do actually exist outside of all time, and everything that's playing in previous lives and playing now is almost like the flicker of images on a TV screen. None of it has reality. The only reality is me, or actually me's not even the reality, because I'm observing the I, which is me. Even it's the absolute. It's like all the dream of God, you could say, or all the dream of the universe. That for me is a simplistic but a way that you could kind of explain some of these difficult ideas.
But then Jason says multiple simultaneous incarnation are also possible, and this one connects to the idea of you could reincarnate living your same life again, or at this same exact time you could be reincarnated in another person that is maybe watching you now and maybe feel it was you.
I mean, these come into play, don't they, a lot, Domenico, with the idea of the multiverse. You know, because they think now that the universe is not just one universe, but multiple dimensions. And if the universe is infinite, truly infinite, if there's no limits to the universe, then every possible scenario that ever could happen will happen. It's like they say, you know, if you have enough monkeys typing randomly on a typewriter, if you had an infinite number, they would all type the full works of Shakespeare by sheer randomness, not only once, but an infinite number of times with an infinite number of variations. So if the universe has no limit to it, then everything is possible. But the thing is, not only is everything possible, but everything is possible an infinite number of times. So the world we live in doesn't seem to exhibit that sort of chaos. You know, it seems to have a consistency. It doesn't seem to have that sort of randomness that, you know, suddenly I'm going to sort of my head's going to explode and I'll turn into a donkey or something. You know, there's no craziness to it. There's no, it seems to have a limit to the possibilities.
To the possibilities is limited by human
that's
mind.
why it makes me think it's finite, the universe, you see, and that maybe we have, well, I don't know. Maybe there's multiple universes as well. So that's the problem.
You see, that's the difference between there isn't a real open mind, because a real open mind understands the infinite. To understand the infinite, you must accept that people are wrong. You must accept that reality is not real. You must accept that, like you said before, you are watching a movie, and the movie is composed by hundreds of thousands of pictures that are just played in sequence. Those pictures, you can jump one, or you can take another movie and put it in front of you. And so imagine that we are just living experiences. And each of these experiences is relived hundreds and thousands of times. You will relive your life again in a reincarnation, actually.
Yeah.
But it
sounds like Total Recall, doesn't it?
It is a bit like that sort of idea. Yeah. I mean, Philip K. Dick, who wrote Total Recall, loved all these sort of concepts that we're talking about now, actually.
And Nana,
they're mind-boggling ideas, actually. If everything exists simultaneously, then that would explain the concept of ghosts as they come from the past. I think then it must only be a matter of different vibrational forces, ghosts the lowest. It's an interesting concept.
Good,
Wouldn't
yeah.
you agree with that?
We discussed
Yeah.
about it when we were talking about ghost photography. That's one of my theories, that we live on different vibrations, and that planet like Mars are actually, there are people living there, just they are on a different level of vibrations. And all the people are living on this planet on different level of vibrations. Some are lower, some are higher, but we cannot see them because our energy, maybe our soul, whatever you want to call it, is not vibrating at the correct level.
Mm.
In the
We
moment,
often talk in mediumship actually about the idea that we.
I agree with it, because Sheravana said that there was a life force on Mars, didn't they? Everyone came from Mars.
Yeah, I think there could be multiple planets and multiple life all around the universe and on multiple planes of existence.
Yeah, I go along with
because
that.
when we do mediumship, they say that the spirit world is like another dimension, okay, and we're connecting with that
Nobody
other
knows where it
dimension.
is.
And for the medium to connect with the spirit world, we have to kind of raise our vibration. And the people from the spirit world say that in order to connect with us, they have to lower their vibration. So their vibration and our vibration, they have to lower theirs and we have to raise ours, and somewhere we meet, and that's how we make the connection. So this idea about, you know, vibration levels, the level of vibration of existence, is probably very close to a good construct of what the universe is all about. It's probably a pretty good model of the universe, the idea that there's multiple levels of vibration, and maybe things can exist on, like the ghost one that she put up then, that's kind of like, if I understand that what she's saying there, things can exist on a lower level of vibration. So we bring our spirit down to a lower, more negative level of vibration. Because, you know, they talk about the lokars, for example, in Vedic teachings, you know, and those lokars, or some of them, it seem to indicate the idea that these are other beings from outer space. You know, that I'm particularly interested in the Naga lokar, which is the idea of the snake people, you know, which went to war with the in far history with humans, and humans stole the knowledge of the snake people and turned it against them. These people could be the idea of people from, you know, other dimensions, other beings from other dimensions that had evolved in some different way. You know, they're going down the David Icke route a bit here, but they exist on a different vibrancy plane. And that maybe to travel through the universe, we have to work on this idea of changing the vibration, that the human spirit at the moment is still very much on this vibration level of the material world vibration. The more materialistic we are, the more we're bound to this material world. But if our vibration level raises, one of the first states we find is we connect with the spirit people, for example, and we get mediumship. But that's only the start, because our vibration level can go further until we can materialize things, for example, like Sai Baba did, or we can go further still, so we can become omnipresent beings and exist in multiple places and timelines and in other with other worlds. So it's all about the old hippie phrase, raise your vibration, man.
Tune in, tune out.
Man. Tune in,
To
turn
lyric.
on, drop it.
Craig, but then think about it. What is an astral projection? How do you get to the astral projection, and what do you do with the astral projection? You're simply raising your energies to a different level. And this allows you to travel in different places without using your body.
Yeah,
But sometimes your consciousness comes out of your body to astral travel.
Yeah, so what I'm saying, and what perhaps being saying here, is that actually you with astral projection, on one level it appears that you step out of your body, and when you die it appears you step out of your body, but actually what you're doing is you're stepping out of one reality into another. You're going through a different vibrational level, and the astral plane is not somewhere else, it's here. You know, the Akashic record is not somewhere else, it's here. We can tune into other levels of vibration, and maybe, because I'm keeping with the reincarnation idea still, other timelines, other time zones, other pasts and far future. You know, perhaps when, you know, you get these impressions of what's going to happen, what we're doing is we're tuning into another level of vibration of a potential of what could be. but maybe it's not all, it's not all set. The past perhaps is set because it's happened, but the future isn't set because we've still got this strange thing called free will, the ability to change and move and alter anything. Like I could immediately, I could take this pen now and stab it in my throat and I could be dead. I have the free will, if I was stupid enough to do that, right? So we have always free will at some point. And that's the most puzzling thing about the universe, in my thought, is this whole idea of the illusion of free will.
I'm going to say good night to you and everybody, because I'm just going to go now, and I'll let you and Domenico have serious man-to-man talk.
This is sort of the man cave talk.
This is quite an intellectual topic, and I think Domenico and you are quite suited to it.
All right, and if you like, Jane, yeah, that's fine.
So
yeah,
I'll say, how do we say in Italian? What do we say for
ciao?
No, arrivederci. There you go. Arrivederci.
Okay.
There is this point, Craig. You talk about free will, but you do not think, because that's what we are taught to think about. Who can tell you that is really free will?
Yeah, that's true.
Bring people's questions in on this, because it's nice that people can interact with us with this as well. So I expect some of you got thoughts about free will and things like that too.
I'm trying to, if you stop talking so much.
Yeah, because obviously we're engaged in this, and Domenico's got the screen there and needs to read the comments all down the side so he can sort of let people come in. Perhaps I should get a bit more central. Yeah. So yeah, this is something. Free will is an interesting concept. It's one of the core concepts of spiritualism, actually, because it talks about this idea of personal responsibility. That it has 7 principles, most of which seem a bit odd, but the idea that we have personal responsibility, which means we have free will, and I think that's probably one of the most important and most mysterious things in the universe at all. So I don't know what people think about that, if you think about free will, and also your thoughts about past lives as well. So
we're having people telling good night and bye to Jane.
Oh, so we've got a few goodbyes, Jane, from people. Bye, Jane, and thank you. Take care, Jane. Good night, Jane. Craig's better than you, Jane. I'm with Jane. It's getting too complicated for me. Yeah, this is going to be quite a different type of chat now, actually. It's a different style of discussion, and we go off into the sort of a new sort of areas here. So I would understand that those that don't prefer the other type of chat, that's fine. Everybody has free will, and it's nothing to do with spiritual. That's interesting thought. It's nothing to do with spiritual. So,
but again, it's because that's what we are taught to think about. That's the thing. We believe in things because that's what we learn. Whether you believe in God, you believe in Buddha, you believe in a religion or a political position, is because that's how you grew. And that's how your ideas are growing. But there is no free will. It's just an impression. Everything is already written. Whatever you do depends in which timeline and in which universe you are living your experience at the moment. Then that's what...
I think there's different... I put it this way. I think there's, I get what you're saying there, but I think there's like different degrees of free will. First of all, free will, perhaps it's an illusion. The animal kingdom has a sort of free will, but it's governed by behavior. Human condition has a sort of free will because I can decide what's going to happen and so what I'm going to do. But then you get to the point where a person becomes enlightened, and it's like they're then free of their karma. And they kind of know that they've got free will, but also know that there's no such thing as free will. They almost understand it as a complete impossibility, that you have free will, but there's no free will. You are just one. I think when you get to the enlightened state, you are just one with everything that's unfolding in the universe. And I think when a person gets into the full enlightened state, the full consciousness of existence, there's no me and that. It's all one, and all your witness, including your own, you just witness the unfolding of karma.
that everything is just the unfolding of karma. It's like what was left from the past, still vibrating until it finally becomes one with the whole existence. So that's how I think of free will. I think free will is real, but simultaneously it's unreal. It's both.
Selena says, we are socialized, but we have free will to change this. Now let's put one thing. Everything we live, everything we think is a human construct. That's not in the nature. Animals have free will. A lion has the free will of not killing. But he doesn't know about free will, but he has the free will of choosing what to do. And he just does what he feels naturally for him to do. Whatever he wants to do. He wants to kill, he kills. Get hungry, he's hungry, he wants to eat, he kills. There you go. That's free will for him. So technically, as you said,
instinct free will he's got. That's what I
that
said.
is instinct. The real free will is instinct. Everything else we have around is just a human construct.
But then there is something that, because humans, we're not just instinct. I mean, it could be argued we're just instinct. I'm sure it could be argued. But we also have these other unusual sort of traits within ourselves, such as compassion, such as love, such as altruism, such as doing something that is for the detriment to me, but for the benefit of another, self-sacrifice. We have all those type of qualities which are go beyond the evolutionary scale and start to take us into a more what I would call spiritual, you know, where some does something for the benefit of another, or does something for the benefit of good for the other. A lot of people argue that these are still instinctive things, but I think there's a big difference between instinctive and like, for example, love and compassion, you know, impossible things to explain, I think, in some respects, in purely in terms of evolution. And then we even go beyond that. We go beyond compassion, we go beyond love, we go beyond those things into states of higher consciousness, which is like pure being, you know. So we're multi-layered people, and we all have all these things. We have the enlightened self, we have the human self, we have the animalistic nature. We are all include all these things that make us that make part of our existence. You know,
what I like is that you see only the positive things, because you're talking about only the positive side, but you forget that human can kill each other.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We kill our neighbors just because they have a different color, or just because they believe in different things than us. We kill our neighbors for money, because that's what is. All these is because it's just experience, is what the consciousness wants to experience.
That's ignorance. Like Buddha said, fear only ignorance. And I think that's just ignorance, you know, ignorance, killing and murder, and because we've got to evolve from something, and that's the mud that the lotus flower grows out of, you know. But the unsullied self is all good. It is all beautiful.
But again, it's an experience. How would you know what good food is if you never tasted bad food?
Well, that's true. I mean, wherever there's light, there has to be shadow too. But you know, I think where our consciousness ultimately lies, where our true existence lies, is all good. I think it's all it's. I suppose it embraces the bad and the good at the same time. It's the abraxas in many respects, but it's also the universe ultimately is bliss. The universe ultimately is pure awakened consciousness. You know. It's almost as he looked upon his creation and it was good. It is good, you know, but we're still stuck in this evolution to become conscious, which probably happens over many, many reincarnations, you know.
But
so Jason here's got one, he says. So still on the free will theme, I see. Free will is part of our souls. We have our life contracts with preordained parts, but are also given enough leeway to freely choose better versus worse pathways, like a multiple choice storybook. That's a nice thought. Got some good ideas, Jason. What do you think about that one, Domenico?
That one connects again with the multiple universe and with the consciousness that want to experience everything possible. all the possibilities. The consciousness wants to experience them all. Like a child wants to read through this book and wants to see all the possible ways. He will read that book over and over again, changing the different stories every time. And that basically is what the reincarnation, multiple universe, life is. It's just reliving a moment or reliving your entire life, just changing one of the path. But everything is already written, because when that child turns to the page and he has a path to choose, where that path leads is already written. It's not something that the child can decide. He can choose between which of the two paths is going to go. But it's going to go at the beginning of the book, reread it, arrive at the same point and choose the other path to see where it goes. Because it's everything already written. The only free will is, I want to experience the first part today, and I will experience the second part tomorrow or in my next life.
Yeah.
And once you finish the book and you tried all the parts, your soul moves into another book. And that's a new experience. And then into another one. But now imagine that all these happen at the same time, right now, as we're talking. As we're talking now, there is a myself being born, and there is a yourself being born. Now take it even when psychics, mediums are able to communicate with other spirits, as they say, is simply because they are able to get into that level of the universe, that universe in which there is a bit of communication. When you can see the future, you actually can see one possibility. And that will explain why, because you saw one universe. Like in the book, you saw one path, you didn't see the other one, because you had to choose which path you wanted to see.
Perhaps it's a bit like they talk about the universe being lumpy. You know, perhaps when you see the future, you see something that's more likely to happen than not happen, in a way. I always think that the way ahead through the future is like, we're traveling over a map, and this is still keeping us with this linear idea of existence, but our life is traveling over a map. And sometimes that map, the roads of that map are likely to take us to the same city, because if you're heading up, you know, if you're going to, in Britain, if you're heading somewhere, you're likely to end up in London when you get on most of the roads. So it's like the future is kind of laid out like a map, but we have the free will to move over that map. So we could sort of take a different pathway. We could take a byway, a small road. We could come off the main path of the future and change our path somehow. And I think this is part of, so what we do is we see the map ahead as a medium or a psychic, and we can say to the person, look, that's good. There's something coming up, head towards that, or watch out, that's bad. You need to find another route round it. But what happens ultimately is that map is laid out. So it's like there's like a future preset that's happened, that's there, but we have the free will to move over that map using our free will to avoid pitfalls or to head towards the best things. So that's kind of a bit simplistic way of putting it, but it kind of, in a way, is the way I think about way the future is set, for example, and the past is the same. These are the places we've come from, and we may have chosen a different route through the potentials of what's there. So there's the potential always to take this road or that road, but we have different ways of traveling, you know, through our free will. That's where our free will comes in.
Ginger T says, I believe in fate. We do not have any control over it. Something is going to happen and we can't stop it. More or less. Because the point you put before of, as a psychic, you can say that path will lead to something good, the other path will lead to something bad, because you see that. But the free will of choosing which path you go is just temporary. You can choose to go to the good path now, because that's what your consciousness wants to experience now. But you're going to relive your life again, and you will arrive at the same point, but this time you're going to choose the other path. So there is a split. Every time you find a split in life where you have to make a decision, you're basically creating a different universe, or the second universe is born. The parallel.
Yeah. So you're still going with this idea that we have, we're living the same life over and over and over and over again. and we're making multiple choices and split the universe every time we make a choice. I think it's a possibility. I mean, I think it's theoretical, but I don't know if that's the ultimate reality. I don't agree with Ginger T though that we don't have any control over fate. I mean, I don't think that's the case. I think we have control up to a point that we can guide ourselves over the map of existence. But if there was no fate, if there was no choice, if everything was predetermined, and this whole free will is a complete illusion, which it could be, it seems a bit kind of pointless, the very existing, because there's no destination, there's no goal, there's no past, there's no future, there's no now even. It's just an unfolding of the universe. I think it does ultimately appear that way, but I think in human existence we have to live with the illusion of no fate. So I think there is no fate, because things will happen, and I believe those things that happen in the world happen depending upon what we've sent out already. So if we're sending out good positive thoughts, for example, in our own lives, good positive things come back. If we do good actions, the Nadi's taught me a lot about this too, that if we do good things, particularly at the right planetary alignments, we do good things in the world, we do alter the course of our destiny, because all of this, what we're talking about, is the unfolding of karma, but there's the karma that's here that's going to unfold. That's kind of fate. Those are the things that we've set up in our lives that are going to happen. They have to happen because we've done these good and bad things that are going to unfold now. But we also, at this present point in time, have the ability to create better karma for the future by our actions now. And this might be what the free will is, the ability to generate new karma that ultimately brings us to realization. Ultimately, it brings good and bad into our lives, but all that karma is building the framework for us to become awakened beings. I mean, this is all still within the concept of the arrow moving of time, a linear movement of time. But I think that fate, personally, is karma.
Does consciousness exist in singularity? In other words, is it a single thing or multiple things?
Good one.
In my opinion, if we follow my idea, then it's a single thing that is at the same time multiple things.
Yeah, I'd run with that. I think consciousness, there's the absolute consciousness. Everything is consciousness. The universe itself is consciousness. Matter is consciousness. Everything is conscious. Everything is life. Everything is, even the most barren aspects of the universe are all conscious. Everything is conscious. And there's the one absolute consciousness behind it all, the one kind of impossible to describe consciousness that goes beyond thought, that we cannot verbalize. And yet I am a conscious being that has a sense of self, and so does an ant, but I must have more consciousness than the ant. Therefore, I would say that consciousness has mass, it has form, that there's more consciousness in me than there is in an ant, right? So therefore, consciousness has quantity as well as being absolute and everywhere. So perhaps consciousness is a bit like that other idea. It's lumpy, it can be more of it in one place than another, and yet it's everywhere at the same time. Does that make any sense, or does that sound different? Do you disagree?
It's just that I see my way of seeing all these things is difficult to understand until you just limit the theory with like free will exists, I'm free to choose whatever I want. Well, I'm more of a believer that everything is already written. Past, present, and future are written, and the only thing, as you said before, but if it's everything written, and then there is no meaning in life, because there is no meaning in making a choice. It's already made.
Yeah, you might as well not do anything. You might as well just sit down and lay in bed.
But then it connects to the original thought of a unique consciousness that it's just one. We are all one. just one consciousness experiencing millions and billions and trillions of lives, whether it's a human life, whether it's an animal life, it's a plant, it's a computer monitor, just to learn. And to experience this creates these false beliefs, because everything is already written. If this consciousness wants to learn something, it cannot live with the idea that everything is already written. Therefore, it creates these human beings, lives, plants, and everything, cars. They have somehow a consciousness. Have you ever had your car broken down and you start to treat her well, or that coming out of a pothole and she keeps driving fine and you just pat her and say, good job? So it's more about experience rather than having a choice. So by giving us this idea, giving to these souls like these split consciousnesses around, the idea that actually they can make the choice, they can choose the things, this will allow you to live the experience, feel it. Imagine like a child that can eat absolutely every ice cream in an ice cream shop. He can eat whatever he wants. In the beginning he will, because it's like a new thing. But if you take a child that always knew since the day he was born that he can eat every ice cream in that ice cream shop without questioning, every time he wants, every time he needs, that child, it will start to get bored of eating everything all the time. Then he will start to create stories, fantasize, because he wants to have the feelings that he's missing now. When you know that you can have everything, you start to miss the feelings. And that's what this consciousness is doing. Because it knows absolutely everything, it's missing the feelings. And without experiences, we are feeding to this consciousness all these feelings.
You're kind of explaining consciousness in terms of experience there. But consciousness is something that is absolute. Is it, you know, consciousness is a hard thing to explain.
No. That's the thing. I'm not explaining consciousness as experience. I'm saying that the consciousness, it's fed with experiences. It feeds itself with experiences. So the example is that the consciousness is like a child in an ice cream shop where he has control over everything and can eat whatever ice cream he wants. Once he done everything, once he knows that he can do everything, once he knows all the tastes and everything, he starts to get bored of them ice creams. But then he has no other way of eating. So he needs to find a way to create again the interest he originally had. And the only way to do it is to start to create fantasies, start to create situations to then bring back the emotions and the feelings that cannot feel anymore. When consciousness that knows everything, knows past, present, and future, knows any possibilities, it knows if it goes to London and takes the M3, it'll get stuck on the in traffic, and it knows what's going to happen there. And he knows that if he takes the inside roads, he's going to get stuck in traffic, but he'll have a better view. But he already knows all these things. He just wants this consciousness want to have the feelings of driving in traffic. Wants to have the bad feelings, and at the same time wants to have the good feelings.
I think some of these things we're kind of discussing here, we kind of, in some respects, because we're kind of intellectualizing it, it becomes very complicated. And my thoughts are with the universe, you know, that so much of this is beyond mind, you know, that the mind cannot really comprehend everything in the universe or the nature of it itself either. And that ultimately, when it comes down to it, when we actually get full realization about what everything's about, as it were, it strikes us as of this pure simplicity. You know, it's like great design is always so simple a thing that it's almost obvious. And I think when we, you know, kind of get to the real depths of understanding and fully awakened, I think the more we awaken to the world, the simpler it becomes in some respects, you know, that it's not a matter of trying to understand this universe with the mind, because the mind is an inadequate tool. We can only understand existence through realization, by being it, by realizing that we are it, and that this little puny little mind we have that tries to intellectualize and understand everything is almost it's like it can't deal with it. It can't understand the idea that about time, for example. Time is is given to the mind, as it were, as a simple way to understand it, but it's such an inadequate way of understanding the world that we can actually understand through just by knowing it, by being it. And I think the only way to really, for us to ever get to the grasp of any of this, is just to be the whole of existence. You know, we become it. We awaken to it to the point that it's self-evident, it's obvious, it's simple. You know, things like the understanding of it, perhaps it's an oversimplification, but to say it's all love. Everything is just love unfolding. You know, so that sounds kind of a bit corny in some ways as well, but that is kind of what it is. You know, that it's nothing but an unfolding, and I think we can find fantastic peace in that when we find that, because we realize there's nothing to worry about in the universe. It's just let it be, let it happen, let it unfold. It's the universe, everything is just kind of like some great glorious happening. You know, I don't know, we want to bring up some other thoughts from people. Oh, I see we've got a few there.
Yeah, I told you you're talking so much.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going on too much. And it'd be nice can we bring anybody in with a link if anybody wants to talk with us?
It seems that we don't have many people, and actually we got 10 minutes left.
Okay, so probably a bit late, but we could also bring others in sometime if you like this little second part. Secondly, this is the after show, as it were. You know, this is just me and Domenico normally have quite sort of intense chats afterwards. You know, I thought, well, we're going to make it live as well, and you might as well all join in if you find this interesting, and let us know in the comments if you find this is, you know, it's not for everybody. You know, some people like different type of show, but you know, we thought, well, we'll just have a sort of a bit more of an intensive man chat.
Yeah, Craig sees these more on the psychic medium side, and I see it more on the philosophical side, because actually my idea of life is more philosophical than anything else, because I follow more the old Greek philosophers like Heraclitus and all those. But anyway, the point is, what we have to do, although everything is already written, we need just to live it, the experience, whichever choice we make. Today we make the good choice, tomorrow we'll make the bad choice. We just need to live it as an experience and learn from it as much as we can. If we start to live our life by accepting whatever comes as a new experience and we learn from it, then only then we can start to grow. If you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can't remember who was saying it. Somebody was saying that, I think it was Jason that said, oh yeah, I have it right in front of me and I'm an idiot. Whatever choice we make, we needed that experience to learn and achieve self-mastery. That's the thing. Although everything is written, the consciousness wants the feeling of the experience. So we simply need to accept and learn from whatever choice we make, good or bad that is. Because we're going to live the life, that experience again in another life, and we're going to make the other choice. Because we got the bad choice experience, then we get the good choice experience on the same decision in different lifetimes. And it's just to, as Jason said, to achieve self-mastery. But not only self-mastery, is to feed experience to the universal consciousness in whichever life you're living, whether it's past, present, future, everything. It's just learn and experience everything as much as you can. When you're eating an apple, don't just eat it, just enjoy it. Like it's the first apple you eat.
Yes. What was the Greek philosophers that used to believe in eating as a way into enlightenment, as it were? The Epicureans.
Yeah.
The Epicureans were a very interesting people. I expect you've come across them, Domenico, where they would eat food, and they wouldn't eat huge quantities. Actually, they eat small quantities of food, but they'd eat some food, but they would get so totally immersed in the experience of that eating, so that the whole consciousness was so immersed in it that this was their way of turning an eating experience into an enlightening experience. And actually, the Epicureans had some very strange ideas. I don't know the full details about them, but in a way, we can do that with our perceptions, because our perceptions, our perceptions can also be a way in to understanding the universe as it is. A lot of the sort of the Indian techniques are always about removing the perceptions, of going inward and cutting off until we go back into ourselves. But we can also go the other way. We can open our perceptions, and we can take any of our perceptions. And I think the Epicureans had it right where they were using food, because that's a very unusual way in. But we, like as an artist, for example, and I look at something beautiful, you can look at it and look at it and look at it, and you see it in more and more depth, more and more ways, and you realize that you're seeing the world through a very blinkered eyes, and the more you look and you look at the beauty in something, like a texture or a rough wall or a flower or something like that, you begin to see that you see the structure of it, you see the form, the mathematics of it, the life force of it, and in a way we are living in a blinkered way. We're seeing the world through a tiny little sort of hole, but if we can learn to open our perceptions as another way in, as it were, I think this is another way that we have a direct experience of the world. It's bypassing mind again. The thing that gets in our way so often is the mind, because that in itself is just like that little hole that we're looking through. It's clamping the world down. It's our prison. And throw that away, throw away the rationality, throw away all this thinking about things, and just be with it and flow with it.
It's the habit. When you're used to something, you don't enjoy it. The best example I can give it with myself. When I was living in Naples, I was eating the pizza and the food there. Every day I was eating the food from there. Every day I was in the city. Every day I was going on the Vesuvius. I was walking on the seaside. For me, it was normal. And now that I don't live it every day, even if, I can find good pizza here in UK. But again, when I go back to Naples and I eat that pizza and the food and the smell, I started to smell different things, but not.
Earlier on, you were talking in terms of if we could eat all the ice cream in the world, and now we got all the pizza. I think this Italian way of this Italian philosophy is very interesting. Two things that very much appeal to me: pizzas and ice cream.
There is an important thing in Naples, and it doesn't matter how you're dressed; you must always be full. Food is important more than clothes. When I go back to Naples, I feel the feelings I felt for the first time I had the pizza, for example. It was a new feeling, but it was actually a new feeling. It's just that I didn't felt it for so long. Didn't feel it for so long, and that's why when I just go once a year or once every 2 years, then that feeling is new again, and it's such a nice thing. And it's the same when you go visit a new place. If you go, like now, because of this lockdown, we are all blocked at home. We cannot travel. We cannot visit other places. You will see the day we'll be able to start to go back to a kind of normality. You will go down to Southampton, down the docks, and you will say, I forgot that actually it's pretty beautiful here. And that's because you're not living it every day.
That's right. We become over familiarized with our experience. This is why, as a children, we see the world differently, don't we? When we see with a child's eyes, we will see bright colors are brighter. Everything is more alive, and I think we imprison ourselves through our lives, through our limitation of experience. I think we need to learn to perhaps become innocent again. I mean, William Blake used to talk about the idea that we go through experience in order to return again to innocence. We come from innocence through experience and back into innocence again. Or even in the Bible, it talks about only if you become as little children can you enter the kingdom of heaven. And I think in a way that means that we have to almost rediscover our innocence of being almost a bit like just a accepting everything in the world as it is again, you know, and our experience teaches us to awaken, but it's not the awakening in itself. The awakening comes, I think, from our realization, which is very much tied in with this idea of, like I said, about simplicity, and perhaps the innocence is a better word, you know, that in that there's purity, in that there's clarity, in that there's it's unsullied because it's not changed by what we think the world should be or not be. We accept things as children as it is, don't we?
And there is another point. Children are fearless. That's the point. That's why they're able to learn new things. When
Yes.
you become an adult, you start to have fear, and this fear that is creating all these problems, actually. If we start to understand that all the people can have different ideas and different mentalities. If we have just fear, we will be angry. If we
children are fearless because they don't know death. And I think awakening also, you don't know death. You go beyond death. And that is perhaps the ultimate goal of the innocence experience of awakening in the way we're talking about it is that if it's death in a way that makes us quiver from the world and makes us hide in experience. But without that factor involved, and which comes with knowledge, then we become again innocent like a child. You know, I think that's the way. Like you're saying.
Anyway, we are actually at the 2 hours.
We're over already, so we better keep to the time because I know what we're like.
Yeah.
We'll go on all night. So I hope people like some of that type of.
We actually have
conversation, isn't it, Domenico?
We got quite a few nice comments. We got Ginger T saying that I love this intelligent conversation, stimulating the mind.
It's a different type of part of the show. This is like the late night bit, isn't it? Really, this is like the after hours sort of talk, you know.
Helly's House says, love listening to these. I could talk like this every day. Well, feel free to join us if you want.
Well, like I say, we can bring people online. Well, I mean, if we introduce this as a sort of an extra after the normal Craig and Jane show, as it were, we can also put your video up on here. We can have up multiple things like they do on Zoom and Skype and things like that. With the system we got, we can have other speakers coming on, share your ideas. So, you know, if you think about that, and you know, as long as you've got, you know, a proper decent connection, because we don't want to be spending all our time trying to get people connected. We can bring others, can't we, Domenico? Good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to participate, the best way is when Craig puts up the live video online that you can clearly see on YouTube and Facebook. You will see the topic that they're going to talk. Jane and Craig are going to talk about that night. So you can see if it's something you'd like to join in the after show chat, and then you can write a message to Craig on his Facebook page. And
or in the comments, can't you? You could put it in the comments. So at the moment you're live, so you're putting comments, but just put it in afterwards. Come back. You could put a comment, can you?
Yeah, the only thing is that I would say it's better if they write what they want to talk about, because allowing everybody to join would be too much of a mess. We want to get the people that have some nice experience, some cool experience, or they have some cool thought to discuss with us, to have a nice chat with everybody and keep all the topic interesting. We got Nana that actually wants to be included in our main chat.
Yeah, well, that's fine. We can do that. And particularly if any of you are on the Patron site, you can always leave me a message on Patron too, and I can copy paste it and send it to Domenico as well that way too. And of course, we got the Zoom chats coming up too. So I'm going to be talking a bit more about reincarnation and things in the Zoom chat on Monday at 7 o'clock UK time for the patrons that are tier 2 and tier 3 patrons. Right.
Simon says, so interesting. Having gone through spiritual awakening in 2014, it was an interesting discussion.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it. It's a different sort of type of stuff. I'm glad you find it interesting.
As I said, it's more of a fight between psychic and philosophy.
Yeah, but not a fight. But I mean, I think the two can find common ground very often, and I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to bring a kind of a deeper philosophy to things, because so often the psychic world and the spiritualist world tends to make really a bit shallow philosophy, and I think we need to deepen that and challenge things. I think it's a good thing to do. You know, all it's about is getting us thinking. Ultimately, I don't think any of us have all the answers. Religion thinks it's got the answers. We don't have the answers. We just have the questions. And I think the important thing, if you've got the questions, you're a long way to get into the right answer, I think.
Jason says these discussions are very welcome. This is what spirituality is actually about, not empty spiritualism. But that's what I believe. I love. I met philosophers. I met religious people. Actually, my mom's uncle was one of the high priests in the Catholic Church. But he wasn't talking with me like he wanted to convert me. He was having an open argument, telling me his point of view. I was telling him my point of view, and we were trying to just putting this point of view on the table. And it wasn't I'm wrong or you're wrong, I'm right. It was just...
We've got no agendas, have we? We just want people to to ask the questions, to think about things. I think, there's so many different ways of thinking about this universe, isn't there? If we come at it at different angles, we stand a better chance of getting a glimpse at the truth. And everybody kind of has a different way into it, don't they? So some people like the simpler way in. Some people like more complicated thinking. Sometimes, we have to throw thinking away. But it's all hopefully useful to people.
Actually, you know what we could do? If people will start to join us and having these open discussions in which everybody can put their ideas, there is no offending anybody. Like, if you're thinking differently than me, I'm not going to offend you, and you're not going to get offended. You're not going to offend me because I think differently than you. We just openly open ourselves and just talk about our ideas. We can actually, at the end of the year, collect the best ones and write a little book about it.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I've got enough on my plate with books at the moment because I'm writing Sharavana's book.
But actually, I'm writing about the connection with all the religions in the world. I found my old book that started years ago, and completed.
Yeah. So this is where you're getting your ideas from. You're thinking.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got to say goodbye to people now. But I hope you found that interesting, guys. And we're going to do this next week again, Domenico, after the Craig and Jane show, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a chat afterwards.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah, so you've got a little extra if you enjoy it, and tell your friends if you enjoy it, and share this video as well, because it always helps us to promote it a little bit more. If you like something like this, it's great to get it out there. So share it on Facebook, share it, and comment on it and so forth, so that it all keeps in front of the public's eye.
This was all great. This was great. Way better than MSM trash. What's MSM? What am I missing here?
MSM trash. I don't know what MSM. What's MSM?
AB, tell us what MSM stands for, please.
Microsoft.
Nana says, please stay on another 2 hours.
Yeah. The snag is we go on all night, and we'll just do this 1 hour fun for the time being. But we might do some separate ones sometimes, Domenico. We could do an all nighter. Would be an interesting one.
People have to know that before all this pandemic, Craig and I were going out together and so on, and usually we would sit somewhere and talk for hours. Like
hours,
we had Danielle and Jane phoning us, telling us, "Where are you?" And we were just sitting.
It would be great when we get the action. We'll never know where we are. We've been talking, haven't we? And it would be nice if we could get some of the others involved, our spiritual friends. Once we got this, and thanks to the patrons helping us with this. Once we can get out there and get the studio together, we could just gather people together, and we could have all sorts of. As well as doing like seances and things like that, we can also do some evenings of discussion, and maybe bring in a few people that are really anti what we do and see how they react and how we something get the juices going. I don't mind even a few skeptics. Right, mainstream media. MSM. Yeah,
Thank you.
seen it. Yeah, and mainstream media, it's a pain, isn't it? It really is. That's blinkered and stopping the truth getting out in every respect, including.
It's becoming 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay, we better say bye then, shall we?
It's time to go.
So we're going to say bye for now then. All right. See you
Thank you,
soon. Thanks for
everybody.
joining us. Bye.
Good night.